Today at this talk. Today I will be talking about microbiome. So the title of my talk today is Navigating the Future of Skin Microbiome Care. I will give you some insight, but also achievements, advancements, and some reasonable skincare to keep in mind when we talk about microbiome. Why are important? Well, other than living together and coexisting, there are a lot of them. And we are talking about 1.6 trillion of microorganisms that live and interact in your skin. So we need to take care of them one way or the other. When we talk about the microbiome and the context of health and disease, we need to think about it as a balancing microbiome. And in this case, you can see that when you have a balanced microbiome, which is the on the left side, by a unique amount of one particular species of bacteria that prevails amongst the others. You have a coexistence with several bacteria that live together, and then in a more equal distributed amount. And normally we know that this can lead, there's a disbalance, an increased sensitivity on the skin, further triggered by dryness, but also inability to really recover this profile. Let's take an example here. Here is a publication, and that is well known now. When you look at atopic dermatitis individual, and you profile the skin microbiome, there are two primarily important species that come into place. One is the Staphylococcus aureus, and the subsequent is the Staphylococcus epidermidis. If you look at the Staphylococcus aureus, is the key player on atopic dermatitis. Skins were tested in different areas, lesion, non-lesion, and healthy controls. You can see this S. aureus is really lowly abundant on the healthy, and it tends to come back up on the atopic dermatitis. So that's further substantiated with increased inflammation and sensitivity. Another example is acne. We now know that there is a lot of research has been done in acne. You can see here is a similar plot. This acne is primarily, how do you say, is a complex disease. There's several bacteria that play a role, but there is one unique bacteria that is well studied. It's called the Cutibacterium acne. But Cutibacterium acne is like a family, and within that, there's different strains. It's like different brothers and sisters that work together. And we are talking about 180 different strains. Right here, we have divided them in subtypes. So in C. acnes, we have different subtypes, type 1, type 2, and type 3. And you can see that the predominant is this dark blue, which is a type 1. Always associate that type 1 to a acne. And we know that in people that have this acne, they have acne, have this strain very abundant, is always important to take care of how to work on managing this acne. We can acnes. And from now on, for the next slides, I will also call it acne. We have profiled at group age, and we try to see how is this C. acnes really connected, correlated to different group age. Dot plots, you can see it's showing how much of this C. acnes you have across age. And we can see that, of course, you expect on the younger demographic to have this acne a bit more abundant because there is a prevalence of this individual to actually burst into acne symptoms. But in group age, which is a 50 to 59, that also have this acne quite high abundant. We are yet at the beginning of understanding, but there is a hypothesis that is linked to menopause. So menopause indicating change of hormone changes could lead to increase of this particular stress, and therefore some women developing acne at that time of age. But it's much more than just looking at age. Skin microbiome affects the hydration, skin texture, elasticity, and pigmentation. Similar type of representation. Low pigmented sites and a high pigmented site. You can see if you sequence or try to detect bacteria in those locations, the microbiome is completely different. So we can actually understand which markers are involved and be able to target them selectively. I spoke about age, and that's a big discussion in science, but as well in the cosmetic industry. And we approach biomask. Think about age. I don't like to talk too much about aging demographic, but we need to compartmentalize it, put them in different groups. So the young and the mature skin. When we talk about young skin and mature skin, a lot of people say, well, can I reverse aging? Can I go back to be young? Yes, everyone wishes to go back and being young, but when you look at the context of microbiome, it's very important that you look at where you are at that time in this perspective, because the microbiome is completely different. So you need to look at targets that are unique to your age group. And we can see here, for example, this bubble that represents the amount of that bacteria. You can say that the diversity is increasing with time. And one will say like, oh, but if your diversity is increasing with time, is that a good sign, Albert? Well, not necessarily. Because the composition of each bacteria, how they play a role in that diversity. So my diversity might go up, but it doesn't mean necessarily all the time is a positive impact. We need to stratify. We can see that the evolve of the microbiome really changes a lot with age. So here I show the data we collected so far. We have seen that the diversity, so position of the microbiome on your skin does increase with time, and it's. But again, question that I ask, is Albert a good sign? So it means that all the demographic have a better microbiome than the younger demographic? Well, it's not the case. Because I've seen that a group of people have this particular bacteria that is, and it tends to be quite abundant on all the demographic. Present on a younger demographic is, we haven't detected so much, but we still see individuals that they are 20 to 6 to 35 years old and have a sensitive skin. But this is so unique to all the demographic that we can now target it to improve their skin. S. epidermidis is a beneficial bacteria. We see it quite high on individuals that are younger, but quite low. We can target this guy because it also plays important antibacterials as auras. These are data that we are collected, and there's a lot of research up, but there is a strong movement and a growing industry on the skin microbiome. So everyone is trying to jump in, understand a little bit more and how it works and what are the key ingredients and aspects that we need to work on it. More and more people are becoming more educated and understanding what the microbiome in the skin is and how important it is. And they're willing to spend a bit more in having a product that really target the microbiome to improve their skin health. If you think about all these aspects, of course, we need to think about the formulations we are developing. Here we are at this beautiful venue, and there's different type of solutions that people are working on it. And a lot of these solutions are primarily focused on directing the skin or the dermis or the deeper layer of the skin. But they never or little are kind of focused on the outer layers. So, these bacteria, for me, have an impactful role on, stabilizing the environment so that any treatment that you do, it can have a better recovery down the line. Different ingredients play a role in the microbiome. So there's not always a hero ingredients when we speak about the microbiome. It's a more of a holistic approach. And here we know the traditional way, most of you focus on our hero ingredients. They want to push that forward. It's not wrong. But when you want to speak about microbiome, you want to understand a bit more what are the rest. So by actually having the right composition and formulation can help us improve on the rest. What are a bit of the do's that you can do in terms of microbiome formulation? We always know that pH is higher is better, or around pH 5 is good, but there is a microbiome aspect on that as well. So a higher pH can really reduce the growth of more bad bacteria and promote the good ones. There's several ingredients that we can work in. It's important to notice that when you test an ingredient, we want to talk about maintaining the microbiome instead of speaking about microbiome-friendly. I know this word has come in quite often in every conferences that I speak, but I've been recently to the in-cosmetic and a scientific conference, and no one seems to like the microbiome-friendly word. The reason is they don't really know what it means. What is friendly about it? Is it friendly to the bacteria? Is it friendly to the hosts or us? So, and friendly is a positive impact or is a negative impact? Which one of these is it? Sequential in our company, we are trying to deviate from microbiome friendly, about more maintaining the microbiome, so there's no shifting in the microbiome. How do we work preserving the products and microbiome products that are important to have. We will discuss a bit later about the discussion with postbiotics and prebiotics. How do we? So these are some of thinking about your preservatives in terms of which one do you want to use it to really use a microbiome centric type of formulation. Now, I don't want to go into the list, but you can have easily a look and I can share a bit more details later. What is important is that come by looking at specific oils to really boost a little bit more the antimicrobial effect in certain bacteria, but also a substitute for your preservatives in this case. So an antifungals and antibacterials against S. aureus again in this case, but not so really selectively trying to target bacteria. Here's just a workflow on how you go about, identifying your microbiome-centric ingredient. So we always talk about pre and post and prebiotics. In this case, there's a flow. You can literally take a picture and then take it as a home message on how you go about it, from identifying the origin of your ingredients and going down to the definition of each one. We talk about this prebiotics, probiotics, postbiotics. There's different categories that are coming out. I want to just give here a bit of a clear view on what they are. So probably most of you already know, but I just want to emphasize the prebiotics are this food for the bacteria, quite important for them to live and flourish. The probiotic is the live bacteria itself. The postbiotic is everything that you release it. Like this is a system, natural system, living organisms. Whatever comes in has to come out. There's a fourth type of approaches, but this is more into the therapeutics. But I want you to know it. It's called bacteriophages. There are viruses that are designed to unique target one bacteria of your choice. So a very select. You can design these viruses in the lab, and they go and find the bacteria you want to, and they just kills it. It's a really cool technology. It's really picking up slowly. Not yet on the cosmetic because there's some regulation needs to be cleared, but quite a lot of interest on that one. And that's me regulation part on the pre and postbiotics. I can tell you right now, there is not a super clear regulatory pathways in terms of pre, post, and prebiotics, and especially products that are on the microbiome. So at Sequential, we want to pioneer and really help in cosmetic companies and push for more clinical validated studies. So here's some of definitions that are coming out, but yet are still in a discussion. Every time that we have a science conference, we have scientific community changes altogether. So we need to have more regulatory entities and the science coming together to really pick up microbiome trends and give them solution. This is a snapshot, a bit more complex than this, of regulatory pathway in UK, pushed by ESA. Yes, you have the FDA, but also there is a lot of networks that have started to push their own regulatory approach. If you want to, for example, to push something in QVC, they throw in the pre and postbiotic into the same family. So it's very confusing. So when you go to QVC and you want to sell the QVC, when you define your product, it still falls under the probiotics and probiotics derived, which it doesn't mean anything, but at the same time, it's all prebiotic or is postbiotic. It's actually not live bacteria because they don't like bacteria. But what is interesting, this is what a number of participants being tested at least before you actually can claim anything possible. In order to not, so this is, I don't know if you're familiar, in 2019, there was a lawsuit. Unilever launched a Dove product. Inside claimed that this product was microbiome friendly or microbiome gentle, they call it. So ACA pushed forward for a lawsuit. And the issue was that the only test they did was laboratory testing. What they did, they took the cream, put in a dish, grow their bacteria, and they say, oh, microbiome gentle. But they're never done, or they haven't substantiated with good in vivo data, with in people data. So they haven't done that. So again, the issue, I'm taking really snapshot to what the ACA has said. They have done some in vivo, but there were like a few people, not. And for more in vivo data for microbiome claims. So with that said, that's where we as Sequential. We know that we need to measure this on your skin directly. So that's why we call it in vivo testing. And in order to do this, we have set up our end-to-end in vivo microbiome. It's divided in 6 phases. We do the study, and we recruit the people. We give you the kits. We are targeting skin primarily, but we extend it to scalp, vulva, and oral microbiome. We do the microbiome detection, a full comprehensive report, then a seal of certification that are linked to testing in vivo. So it's maintaining the microbiome, not microbiome or any of those. We wanted to really keep this neat and clear so that people understand it. One thing that we really improved a lot is this collection system from the skin. No one likes swabbing anymore. I think we agree with that. Second, swab is a bit difficult to collect good materials. If I give a swab to you, everyone, and ask, can you swab for 60 seconds on the cheek? I get the samples back. There's so much variability. Everyone has collected in a different way. Somebody has pressed differently. And you always need somebody to do it. So we have developed something much simple. It's a patch. You apply on the forehead, 10 seconds application. You insert in this collection tube and you send it over to a lab. And the study picks up from there, and we can collect much more material. So you can see different systems collected. We can see with our sequential patch, we can collect much more DNA from this bacteria, and allows us to do much more analysis and understand many, many more species collected to that. We've been awarded for the most significant claim testing tool. Again, the most significant microbiome-friendly test. And I was a bit disappointed. I didn't want testing there, microbiome-friendly, but we are still scientifically proven, so that's where we wanted to put. I'm not jump into here too much, but this is the type of detection tools that we're using. Most of you are familiar, most of you are not. PCR, everyone knows a PCR these days, but the PCR allows us you to selectively detect each of these microorganisms, like you do for COVID. Same thing for bacteria. But more and more advanced is what we are doing now with this called next generation sequencing, where we can thousands of species in your skin in one go without actually doing laboratory work. So this is a remarkable technology that we can now use, and is decreasing in price quite substantially as we increase the number of samples. We have correlated data so far over 16,000 different skin microbiome samples across different locations. So our lab is in Singapore. So I flew from Singapore, where we are located right now, but we have a lab in UK and United States. Having these 3 locations has been very useful for us because it's a different type of environment and different type of cultures, and allowed us to collect all this data and doing several correlation analysis. In our platform, we can do all this and substantiate you in the right way what your product ingredients are actually doing. I want to give you 2 examples here, case studies that we have done the platform. In this particular case, we have worked with a company where we tested a topical microbiome active. And the key of this active, or the hypothesis, was that can we boost bacteria, good bacteria, commensal bacteria going up, so that we can improve skin acne disease. So the study was done as follows. We have group A control product. We call it washout. And we continued with the control day 28. The group B had the same control product, but then switched to treatment B, which is in this case with this microbiome active. And we continued over the 28 days. And we collected sample at baseline, at day 0, at day 14, and day 28. And the hypothesis was that treatment B can boost the good bacteria up. But at the same time, the outcome be you have improved acne. When you approach us, we want to be science-driven. Sometimes we are too much, I believe. We need somebody who actually can help us on the language side, but we are getting there. We first ask the question, the scientific hypothesis, then we move to the marketing claims. So there's 3 main categories here that I underlined what our product should cover. First of all, the scientific hypothesis is, does that diversity change? The idea is like your diversity should not change after a product is used. Does it boost the good or bad bacteria? Although the diversity is not changed, so it's stable, you know, the good and bad bacteria can swap around, which the diversity is maintained, but the good bacteria really jump up and down. So the idea is like you want the good one to go up, but the bad ones to, you know, stay low and not really going up too much. And the third point, what really is the aspect of your skin that is linked to that microbiome? So if you answer yes to these questions, and then we answer all this scoring, then you have good confidence that you can go out there and claim it that your microbiome, your product is maintaining and supporting the microbiome in vivo. We did split 50-50 between male and female. I think what we measured is this diversity. You can see this is called a box plot. What we see, there is some changes, but it's not significant from a science point of view. We don't call this significance, although I know in the cosmetic industry, everything that goes up for you is nice, but it has to significantly go up. But we don't see this quite stable between the 2 groups. Now, what we notice is important. Okay, this is a busy slide, but I want you to focus on baseline point. So this is different bacteria that we measured, and they have treatment A and treatment B. The treatment A is the control group, and the treatment B is the active group. And you can see that this is called the violin plot. The bigger the plot, basically, you can tell that it's more abundant compared to the other one. Now, you can see that there is an NS right in there. That means that it's non-significant. Although you see variation, but it's not significant at day 0. But interestingly enough, we saw good significant, good bacteria, especially these 2, going up selectively after already day 14. And this is 2 bacteria, the S. epidermidis, you guys are familiar already, and the S. capitis, which is normally quite interact other type of bacteria that are linked to acne. As you can see, acne has not changed in this particular individual, which is not what the hypothesis was in the first place. So we need to really come with the questions like, what should your product do? And of course, to jump into more cool stuff, I talked initially that the microorganisms are connecting and networking and, you know, speaking to each other. This is a representation of how these microbes really speak to each other, how they connect with each other. And you can see that the more the interaction, the better it is. Means there is more communication. And with the group B, there was an increase significantly on this interaction. And then the number of microorganisms also has increased. But of course, we have seen that they reduce acne in these individuals. This particular product is not for acne vulgaris, so strong treatment, but acne-prone people that have the years. And then yes, finally, that's what you ultimately want. That really scientific proven way of doing everything. I think this is the last study we did, but it's very important. We have worked on this type 1 and type 2 that I mentioned to you initially, and we have tested. This is just a tested anti-blemish product. Here in this case, we wanted to see how the type 1 and type 2 changes. What we see, no differences in diversity. Again, there's nothing changed, but we saw acne going up. This is total acne. And for us, it was initially surprising. I said like, okay, is that a good sign? Is that a bad sign? It is a good sign because the bad acne has gone down, but the good acne has gone up. So the total acne has gone up, if that makes sense. So by boosting the good acne, you actually see an improvement on this skin over time. So that's the whole idea. We need to really look at what your product is doing. And again, in terms of the claim side, you really need to ask the right question. What is your product doing? A lot of companies come to me, Albert, but can my do this? Can I claim this more? It was like, your data is not really showing this, so I cannot really tell you that is true. So I try to be as fair as possible, but at the same time, I know you're in the cosmetic industry, you guys love to push the boundaries, but we need to bring it back to what the data is talking. These are some of the companies we worked and we are still working. We have launched a skin test kit for consumers. This is in the US, in France, in the UK. We are now looking at how the vibe and the interest is in Australia. We haven't fully gone for this market yet, but there is a good interest. This is the patch, very simple. Peel it, put it on, send it over to us. We normally have the sample inside with a device for your health on the microbiome side. We can measure microbiome health, the markers, where you are, how it changes between product usage. But as a proof of value of what we are doing with this data is really, we have developed a first biomask that allows you to really supplement your skin with the good pre and postbiotics. We cannot bring yet the probiotics in the cosmetic industry. We know that. However, there is some interesting technology coming on that base, postbiotic, on the prebiotic, but also live bacteria to bring in. I'll share that with you. And I don't know if you have seen it before. They're basically selling the live bacteria as a different component. It's a dry bacteria. And then they sell this water, which is actually water, but they sell it like their active ingredient. And then what they do, they sell it separately to the consumers, and then they go home, they put this capsule, mix it with water, and they activate bacteria. A way to bypass regulation. Now, I don't know how is that moving at the moment. I saw this, there are two main manufacturing in Korea that were doing this. I don't know if that has already arrived here, if you guys are already approaching, but this is a way to kind of bypass some of the regulatory hurdles that you have with live bacteria. With us, we try to give the right food to the right guys. So that's what we're doing with the biomasks. And we have seen some remarkable effect. Increase the good bacteria, decrease the bad ones. Especially in older women, tend to go down with time. And with this one, we can push it up and then improve the skin in this case. As I mentioned, we have labs. We have a lab next to Johnson & Johnson. This is our team. Myself, I'm the Chief Scientific Officer based in Singapore. We have Oli, the other co-founder, Petronio, our Skin Director, and then a powerhouse of advisories that help us with the microbiomes. Some of these people you might know, some of people are new to you. Tom Donson is one of our key opinion leaders, the guy with the long hair there, curly. He is the guy behind the development of Head and Shoulders. So he has been a key component of us in terms of the fungi and the scalp microbiome. Well, again, this was little of what we're doing. He's on the booth at Vita. Happy to have any questions that you have later. You can come over here. Anyway, thank you.